Hello students, last time we have started with lesson number 1 of civics, the Constitution of India. So we have done that one Constitution Assembly was appointed to frame the Constitution of India, and originally 389 members were there, but later on, due to the partition of India, number of members were reduced up to 308 members. Then this Constituent Assembly was having the work to frame the Constitution of India. Then we have done about the prominent persons of this Constituent Assembly. And this topic we have started, that the Constituent Assembly at work. So let us continue with the same. We have already done that in this Constituent Assembly, Dr. Sachidanand, he was appointed as the interim president, and after 2 days Dr. Rajendra Prasad was appointed as the president or permanent president of this Constituent Assembly. Now our today's topic that we are going to start with is the drafting committee. So the Constituent Assembly appointed 14 committees. So under that Constituent Assembly, it was 14 further committees that were appointed by this assembly, and 4 subcommittees to examine different aspects. And of these committees, the most important was drafting committee, and this drafting committee was appointed on 29th August 1947, and this committee was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was its chairman. It means when we have appointed Constituent Assembly, then 14 committees were appointed by Constituent Assembly, and 4 subcommittees were also appointed to examine what is going on there. And the most important among these committees were the drafting committee. So this was the most important committee. Question could be there, which committee was the most important committee? That was the drafting committee, because this was there to draft the constitution, to write the constitution. Then who was the chairman of this drafting committee? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of this drafting committee. These two are the important questions. And now the passage of the constitution. Each article of the draft constitution was discussed and fully debated in the Constituent Assembly. So each and every part that was there to add in our India's constitution, that was properly discussed in this Constituent Assembly, and the constitution was adopted and enacted on 26 November 1949. So when we are having our Indian constitution ready, and after the debates, means detailed discussions, and after the debates, this constitution was finally adopted. So when this constitution was adopted, this question could be there in your paper. Then when it is written here, adopted and enacted, means they are asking about the date when this constitution was ready, and this is 26 November 1949. Okay, so when it received the assent of the president of Constituent Assembly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad and other members. So on this particular date, the constitution that was drafted, means it was ready, and on this particular day this was accepted, means assent, permission or approval was given by the president, that was Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and the others members. So when it got the consent, permission or approval, same meanings are there. So that date is known as the date of adoption and enactment, and it was enforced on. Now different word is there, enforced on. When this constitution was enforced, that date is 26 January 1950. It means our constitution was ready on this day, and it came into force on 26 January 1950. So don't be confused in these two dates. The next topic is the preamble. Like your books are having preambles, means first page, that is known as preamble. Index, sometime it is written, same meaning is there. So preamble contains the ideals and basic principles of the Indian Constitution. So what is there in the preamble of Indian Constitution? That is the basic ideals, the basic ideas, basic principles that are there in Indian Constitution is written in this preamble. And the preamble is not a part of Constitution. So sometimes question could be there, is preamble a part of Constitution? No, it is not a part of Constitution, but it has been described as the key to the Constitution. So what is the use of a key? If we want to enter in a room that is locked, then with the help of this key only we can enter. So if we want to get what is there in our Indian Constitution, that we can get from the preamble. That's why it is known as key to Constitution. As key is not a part of the room, similarly Constitution preamble is not a part of this Constitution, but what is there to get that information? This is the key. And it is not enforceable by the court of law. Question could be there, is preamble enforceable by the court of law? No, it is not enforceable by the court of law, as it is not a part of this Constitution. Then new words are given here. Just go through these new words also. Same we have already done, and a little bit we will do, that are pending. Then we are discussing preamble here. Preamble serves as the guiding light for the Constitution. So the feature, the importance of preamble is it serves as the guiding light for the Constitution, and all the values that inspired and guided the freedom struggle are embedded in the preamble. Means all that kind of information is written in this preamble, and this is very important as it is providing us a way, it is a guiding light for the Constitution. The things that are written in this preamble, according to that we have adopted, and we have added some rules and regulations that we will discuss on next page. Okay, before reading about the salient features of the Constitution, it is necessary to know about the preamble, which remained unchanged till 1976. So this preamble is same, only one amendment was there, and that changes were added in the year of 1976. And from here question could be there, which words were added in 1976? So those words are socialist, secular, unity and integrity of the nation. So these four words were added on the year of 1976, and afterward nothing was there that we can say change in our preamble. And as you read about the different features, you will know how preamble has been reflected in the Constitution. As I told you, on next page we will discuss this. Okay, now the basic features of the Constitution. Very important topic this is. Indian Constitution is unique. It is a healthy synthesis of the world's best democratic constitution. It means Indian Constitution is a mixture of the world's best written constitutions, or we can say the world's best constitutions, best parts. We adopted that particular best parts from the best constitutions of the world in this India's constitution. And fathers of our constitution have tried to learn from the experience of other nations. and they adopted certain features of the constitution of UK, USA, Ireland, Canada after suitably modifying these to suit Indian conditions. So the Indian constitution is having the features that are there in the constitutions of UK, USA, Ireland, Canada, and we didn't just copy and paste those things. In proper study was there, and whatever was suitable for India, only those type of rules we adopted, even those rules we adopted after modifications. So according to the requirement of India, only that laws we have adopted. It's okay, we got many laws, many rules from these countries constitutions. Thus, they have been able to give an excellent and a workable constitution to India, which has been in force for more than 60 years, because these countries already experienced with the laws which whatever are there in their constitutions. So we got those rule regulations from these countries which already implied they were having the experience. Also modifications they have done according to the requirement, then later on when we adopted that with modifications. It means suitable things that were required for India we adopted. And this constitution is working more than 60 years, means since more than 60 years we are using India's this constitution. And the basic features are: number one, a written, enacted and lengthy constitution. So India's constitution is written document, and it is the lengthiest constitution of the world, and it was adopted, enacted and given to us by our Constituent Assembly on 26 November 1949. And the constitution is quite detailed. It is the lengthiest one, having 395 articles and 12 schedules in it, and it is divided into 22 parts. So in the beginning, in our constitution we are having 395 articles, and those are scheduled under 12 schedule, means 12 lists, and further divided into 22 parts. Like your books are having units, then chapters, then topics are there. So similarly it was having that type of divisions. And second is the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. The Constitution of India lays down certain basic features or the basic structure which cannot be amended, altered or modified by any legitimate authority in India. Legitimate authority means those who having the authority to make some kind of laws. So whether we can modify our constitution, whether we are doing or we have done many amendments in our constitution, but this basic features that are sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic, these we cannot change, modify or alter. We cannot change anything in these particular features of India's constitution. And the constitution declares India to be sovereign. Sovereign means free from any other country's control. Socialist, secular. Secular means India is not having any particular religion. All religion are equal. And democratic, republic. Democratic, the government which is elected by the people, for the people and of the people. And republic means where the head of the country is not on the basis of heredity. Like our president is there, he is elected, his position is not based on heredity, and he is the constitutional head. Okay, so only the detail of this is given under this. So let us start with 1. India is sovereign as it is independent of any foreign control. Question could be there, how you can say India is a sovereign country, or what is the meaning of sovereign? So independent. Then the socialist, it aims at social and economic equality. That whether we are talking about society, whether we are talking about economy, all are equal. Poor, rich, all persons belonging to any community, caste, everyone, all are equal. Then secular, there is no state religion of India. Then democratic, government is elected by the people directly after every 5 years. And republic, because head of the state of India, that is president, elected for 5 years by the member of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and the state legislature assemblies. So these are the second feature. And third one is the universal adult franchise. So what is universal adult franchise? Universal means for all without any kind of discrimination. Adult means in India adults are those who are 18 or more than 18 year of age. Franchise means right. So here universal adult franchise means all the citizens of India, those who are 18 or more than 18 year of age, without any kind of discrimination, having the right to vote, having the right to choose their representatives. And every citizen of India who is at least 18 year of age can be a voter to elect representatives to the parliament and the state legislature, means MLAs and MPs. From here MPs, and from state legislatures MLAs, they can choose. And he possesses the right without any discrimination of caste, creed, color, sex, religion or belief. He can vote for any candidate of his choice, but he must get himself registered as a voter. What is the condition? That he must get himself registered as a voter at the required time. So sometime person is 18 year or more than 18 year or of age, or having all the required things, means fulfilled all the conditions, but if he didn't registered himself as a voter, then he cannot use his right to vote. So now there is joint electorate in India, in contrast to the communal or separate electorate before independence. So joint electorate means whether a person belongs to any caste, any community, any religion, any region, and whether the candidate even is from any caste, community, religion or region, they will be there in particular single constituencies. Voters from that particular constituency will give their votes to the candidates that are there, whether belong to any caste, community or religion, means joint electorate, jointly they will participate. And before independence, that was based on communal or separate electorate based, means according to their community election procedure was there, so the voters can give their vote to the person of their own community only. It was this was the system provided by the Britishers for the divide and rule purpose. So now we don't have this type of system according to India's constitution. We are having universal adult franchise where all are equal. Okay, now fourth feature, both rigid and flexible. Rigid means that is very difficult to change. Flexible means that can be molded or changed easily. Article 300, sometime question could be there, how you can say the India constitution is both rigid and flexible? Then we will give both examples, one for the rigidity and another one for the flexibility. So Article 368 of the Constitution provides for the procedure of amendment in our Constitution. So which article provide the procedure for amendment? Question could be there, then your answer will be Article 368. And some articles can be amended. So under this, the provisions are provided. So according to that, some articles can be amended by simple majority vote in the parliament. So simple, where it is simple majority, it means flexible, it can be easily changed. But some other articles can be amended by two-third majority in both houses of the parliament. It means very difficult if we want to change something with two-third majority in the both houses of the parliament, means two-third majority in Lok Sabha and two-third majority in Rajya Sabha. If that particular amendment will be passed, means that bill will be passed in both the houses by two-third majority, then only that particular amendment could be there. It means very difficult. This is the example of rigid, that the constitution is very rigid, it's very difficult to change. So we are having both things. It means India's constitution is rigid as well as flexible. Then federal features are there. Federal government, there are two sets of government, that is the union government and the state government. Union government in the center for the entire country and state government for the states. And the constitution specifies to both of the sets of government clearly marked areas of functioning. Everything is mentioned in our constitution, which powers are for the state government, which are for the central government. And the Constitution of India does not use the term federal. So we are not having this term mentioned in our Indian constitution. Instead of this word union of states, this word is mentioned. India is a federal country because powers are divided between central and state governments. Still, this word is used, union of states. And why? Because this is shown that all Indian states are under one nation only, means India is a union of states. The constitution clearly mentioned the subjects on which the central and the state government can pass laws. This is called division of powers between the center and the state government, means lists are there. According to those, union government can make law which are in that list, and state government on that particular matters that are mentioned in the state list. Then is sixth feature. Sixth feature is the fundamental right, very important feature. Our constitution guarantees 6 fundamental rights to the citizen of India. So how many fundamental rights are provided? 6 fundamental rights. Earlier 7 rights were there, but after amendment number reduced to 6, and 7th right was right to property, that is removed now, and that is legal right now, not fundamental rights. And these include the right to equality. So if question is there, write down the name of that 6 fundamental rights. So first is right to equality, second is right to freedom. Equality means all are equal, freedom means all are free. Right against exploitation, no one can exploit us, means no one can use us for his or her own purposes. Right to freedom of religion, we can adopt any religion. Cultural and educational right, we can promote our own culture, we can get education. And the right to constitutional remedies, if these 5 rights are spoiled by someone, then with this 6th right, that is constitutional remedies, we can get all these rights. So remedy means for example, if one person is not well, his health problem is there, so he will go for the medicine, means he will approach a doctor for medicine for the remedy of his sickness. Similarly, if these fundamental rights are exploited, or someone is not giving, or someone is making something against our fundamental right, then we can move to High Court or Supreme Court to get that rights. That is known as the constitutional remedies. and all these rights are enforceable in the courts of law and are protected by the judiciary. As I told you, we can move to Supreme Court or High Courts. Okay, the seventh one is the parliamentary government. The constitution provides for the parliamentary form of government at center and the states. So our type of government is parliamentary government. As such, the president and the state governors are nominal heads of the executive. So who are the nominal heads? The president of India in the center, and if you are talking about the states, then the state governors. These are the nominal heads. So who are the real? So real power is vested in the Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister at the center. And when we are talking about the states, then chief ministers in the states, they are the real heads, means powers are in their hands only, and they belong to majority party in the parliament and the state legislature. So when we are talking about prime minister and his council, they belong to majority party in the parliament, and when we are talking about chief ministers, they are from the majority party of state legislature. So the council of ministers is jointly responsible to parliament. Jointly means the head as well as his ministry, like prime minister and his council, chief minister and his council. So they jointly means they all are jointly responsible for their acts to the parliament. And the state legislature, which can remove the prime minister or the chief minister by passing a vote of no confidence. So if no confidence motion is passed, then ministry will resign. And the last feature is the single unified judicial system with independent judiciary. So the judicial system in India is like a pyramid. Pyramid means at the bottom we are having broad base, then narrow means so many subordinate courts, district courts, like that are there. Then when we will start to move upwards, then many high courts near about, except few states, near about each and all states are having their own high courts. Then at the topmost position, that is the Supreme Court. That is the supreme, means all the judiciary or all the judicial powers are in the hand of Supreme Court, and other are subordinate to Supreme Court, means this is the pyramid. And there can be a single high court for two or more states, like for Punjab and Haryana, one high court is there, that is Chandigarh. And judicial service is an all India service, so for the entire country. And the high court judges can be transferred from one state to another by the Supreme Court. And the judiciary in our country is independent, free from the control of anyone, whether president is there or prime minister is there. Judiciary is free, and judges cannot be removed except through impeachment. So how judges can be removed? They can be removed only by the procedure of impeachment, and they have a fixed tenure and can function independently, means fixed tenure they are having, means at the date of their retirement, till the date of their retirement they can be there in the court, or if due to any reason it is required to remove them, then only one procedure, that is impeachment, is there. And there is also provision for judicial review. And the courts are the guardians of the constitution, means they are there to protect the constitution. And if the union or state legislature or the executive act in an unconstitutional manner, means they are doing something that is not according to the constitution, the same can be declared ultra virus and rejected by Supreme Court, means harmful, that could be declared harmful, and by the Supreme Court that laws could be rejected. And the courts are the protectors of our rights, so they are the protector, they are there to protect our fundamental rights also. And this all is under this judicial review, means whatever laws are passed by legislature, that will be reviewed, means once again they will be viewed by the Supreme Court, and if any law among them is not according to constitution or against the constitution, that law is, then it will be declared null and void by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court is the protector of our fundamental rights. So with this we have done this chapter, and one word was their impeachment. As I told you, to remove the judges of a Supreme Court. Even if we want to remove the President of India, same procedure is there, that is known as impeachment. Or this chapter is over. If any confusion is there, you can message me. So just watch this video, then try to understand the topics, question answers and exercise I will send you later on. Thank you.